So we'll see what happens with NAFTA. But I've been opposed to NAFTA for a long time in terms of the fairness of NAFTA. I said we'll renegotiate. And I mean, I think Justin understands this. If we can't make a deal, it'll be terminated.
So President Donald Trump there, not so subtly hinting in his Oval Office meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that he's still very much ready to dump the NAFTA deal. How soon could this go off the rails? Will it go off the rails? Should Canada have a plan B? To find out, I'm joined now from Washington by the former U.S. Ambassador to Canada, former Governor of Michigan, James Blanchard. Ambassador, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And from Vancouver, we're joined by the former Cabinet Minister, James Moore, who is currently on Justin Trudeau's NAFTA Advisory Council. He was just in Washington meeting with U.S. officials. Good to have you on the program. And James Moore, let me start with you. You just got back from Washington, obviously. How close, in your view, is Donald Trump to pulling the plug on NAFTA?
Well, I don't think they're there yet. I mean, you saw Prime Minister Trudeau was there, and then very quickly that afternoon, as a matter of fact, he got on a flight and went off to a rally to push for his tax plan. So I don't think it's a real front burner issue for him right now. And as a matter of fact, Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, whose mandate it is to actually negotiate the agreement and then bring it back to the president for affirmation, he said that the Americans wouldn't be wasting this effort if they didn't actually think that there was a way to arrive at a modernization of NAFTA or a reformed NAFTA that would make sense going forward.
Ambassador, there's lots of talk about these poison pills. Donald Trump has said for a long time NAFTA is an unfair agreement, a terrible agreement. He insinuates that if he doesn't go for his protectionist views, he will rip it up. What's your view where this is heading?
You're asking me. I think we'll end up with a modernized NAFTA. Keep in mind, almost all the businesses in the United States, business leaders, businesses, agriculture, farmers, all want NAFTA. They like NAFTA. The sticking point to get something through Congress will be the wage differential between the U.S. and Canada and Mexico, where Mexican workers are making like $2 an hour. So that's going to have to be dealt with. But there's great, great support in the business community here, and I don't think Donald Trump can ignore that business community, to renew NAFTA. And Congress will have a say. So, by the way, I think that Prime Minister Trudeau is doing the right thing by being friendly and nice and positive. That's how you deal with this president.
But James Moore, I mean, this is the question. Do you continue to try to be nice to Donald Trump, who doesn't seem to listen to the logical arguments of the mutually beneficial notions of NAFTA? He needs a political win, and it could be a very expensive win for Canada. At what point does Canada have to say, this is a bad deal for us, we're going to walk away, we can't hand Donald Trump a political victory at the expense of our own economy?
Well, I think we're a very long way away from that right now. But look, Donald Trump, I think you're quite right. You know, in the 2016 campaign, I think he dialed up the rhetoric against NAFTA to a 10. But by the way, he wasn't the first person to do that. Barack Obama, when he ran for president in 2008, he attacked NAFTA. This is not anything new. Bernie Sanders attacked and trashed NAFTA. This is not a new concept in American politics to be anti-NAFTA and anti-trade.
Yeah, but James Moore, that's all true. That's all true, but
yeah.
Do we still need a plan B? That's all. The logical side's true. But the political side, really, you know, for the U.S. side, there's an audience of one. It's Donald Trump. Do we need a plan B just in case, you know, Donald Trump's mood changes and he says, I told you I'd dump it and I did?
Well, sure, and I think the Plan B is a longer-term game for Canada that I think Prime Minister Harper worked on, I think, pretty aggressively, which is to expand Canada's market access with the rest of the world, hence the Trans-Pacific Partnership, hence the Canada-South Korea Free Trade Agreement, the Canada-Europe Free Trade Agreement, the Canada-EFTA, the European Free Trade Zone Agreement, to expand Canada's market access to the rest of the world. But look, the reality is Canada and America both benefit enormously from our trading relationship. We're the #1 customer for 35 U.S. states on their exports, and this relationship has been good for all of us.
Ambassador, that all may be true, but Donald Trump, in the meantime, has hit hard outside of the NAFTA. He's hit hard at the softwood lumber industry in Canada and British Columbia. He's hit hard at Bombardier, the aerospace giant in Quebec. Canada's taken some big hits here. Boy, with friends like that, should Canada hit back?
We'll see what happens. I think Canadians are wise to negotiate. First of all, I've done lumber before. You're going to have to negotiate a settlement. This is nothing new whatsoever. The grievance with NAFTA that the voters worried about and Trump cited were wage rates. And if you deal with wage rates in a reasonable way, I don't think there's going to be a problem renewing it. I don't. Plan B, if I were still governor of Michigan, I'd say Plan B would be the free trade agreement of 1989, which happened when I was governor. And again, in that case, it was Prime Minister Brian Mulroney and the Conservatives who moved that along.
Okay, last thing to you, James Moore. Why would anyone think that Donald Trump will keep this agreement? He's pulled out of Paris, Trans-Pacific Partnership, just pulled out of UNESCO. Look what's going on with North Korea. Look what he said about NAFTA. He's just pulled out of this Iran deal. This guy doesn't like agreements. Why would there be optimism that this is the one agreement he would like?
Well, I mean, it's a fair point, and that's why my honest assessment is I think the odds are even that he may, in fact, take that position. But that said, I think we're still relatively in the early stages of this process. You know, we're in the round 4 of 7, but the real meat is actually happening right now over the coming few days in Washington. And I am an optimist because, as I think as the ambassador just said, I think there's an army that's about to stand up in the agricultural sector, the auto sector, the business community in the United States that will make this argument. And I think also a reformed NAFTA with a real effective labor chapter will I think do a lot to move the needle forward on getting some Democrat support for a reformed NAFTA.
All right, some optimism this morning, gentlemen. I appreciate the optimism this morning. Ambassador, great to have you on the program. James Moore, good to have you as well.